Here is, I think, Mozart's birthplace without the tourists. Here on his other building is supposed to be a symbol at the bottom of the door of, there it is, the symbol of the pharmacy, the snake. Mechanism for signaling the various units up above, with probably a mechanical bell system is what it is. This looks like Getreidegasse. But I love being on these streets when there aren't any tourists here. Not quite sure why, except that I can actually focus more on what might be here. Here there's not much. And walk down many of these, what were probably originally streets or not, but now are kind of referred to as streets, but they're really alleyways through and under most of buildings. Same with this one here. Whether that artwork up there has any old lineage, I don't know. I have 6 days to go. I'm going up to look at the Holland something or other castle or fortress, starting right across from the river, looking for an old hotel. At least I saw the name as I entered into this area a moment ago, and I believe it's a very old hotel, but I can't find it. Looking right through the center of the old town to get to the stairway that goes up to the fortress. This is the Rathaus, and this is Rathausplatz, but Rathaus is the old city hall, surrounded by, they claim, very, very old buildings. However, the architecture, as we know, is rather simple, and so it's difficult to know if this is old or not. Certainly the one to the left may well be an old building, but they removed all of what would have been the surface architectural detail. How old this is, I don't really know. Notice the wall. That may indicate that earlier wall that was around the town that's now apparently obliterated, as well as the moat outside of it, which is perhaps underneath this street. What the reference to Hayden is, I don't know. This artwork is on that same building. Seems to reflect a teamster was that first part there, people working with bolts of cloth. More bolts of cloth, and it looks like seamstress over there. So it may well represent that this area, this building, was devoted to such materials and crafts. Talk of a child, I've located the hotel I believe is quite famous and quite old, the Elefant. Looking rather nondescript now. Let's see if we can find some interesting detail. How new or old any of this is, I don't know. But you can see an example of how you've got an architectural detail that's sculpted, or appears to be, and then it's just inserted into a wall. Shops around it seem to reflect the ambience of age, but my guess is this is the 1900s, probably right around 1900. But it was in the core of the old town, so the delicious pleasure of panning about this square without the people in it. Down there is that old pharmacy that I visited. And through there is the fountain within the great square where the Residence is, which is the building on the right where that lady is walking. Beyond it, one of the 2 or 3 major churches here, and to the right will be Salzburg Cathedral once we get into the square. Now, this shop, as I approach the major square, indicates, without my knowing the actual words, that the time frame for this business or location was 1408 to 1908. Shop front exterior reflects that era, as well as is somewhat dramatic given its time and context. Entry into this building. Look closer at what the artwork is on that subtle There's the Salzburger Glockenspiel on top of that, I think, church. And it's composed of all those little bells that you see. And presumably it's a large drum with, I think, fingers protruding from its surface that trigger this, kind of like the old piano players that were automated. I'm not going to visit the Rezedenz because I think I'd seen it all, been there, done that kind of thing, and that they were pretty much normal. But it appears from the internet that the embellishments of the inside were truly spectacular. So I'll probably pick a morning and come back here and hit that at 10 o'clock when it opens before the peeps get there. This is the inner courtyard of the Rezedenz, at least where people would come with their carriages to begin to pay homage, assuming they were allowed in. Again, what's most notable is the absolute simplicity of it. But it's inside that you find out where the money was spent. Your money. These cannonball are authentic. I think they were really just to do what they do now, to find this room. Now we're going to walk in, if I get that far, to the real inner courtyard of the Residence. This is how it butts up against the cathedral, which is to the left. And there's the castle that we're going to right now. This is a side door to the left of the main entrance into the cathedral. Side door to the right. It looks very modern, doesn't it? Pan down the face of the left side of the main door. Can't be sure what that is. I assume it's Christ on the right, kneeling. Before whom, I don't know. This does not look good. Again, I assume that's Christ in that position. Isn't it an irony that he's portrayed so humble, so penitent, so controlled, oppressed, and the church was anything but that. And this is the right side. What is interesting is the contextual restraint of this style. They're very simple pictures, simple story. While not closed, the church is dark today, both because it's a dark, rainy day, but perhaps there are lights that are not on. Across this large piece of stone, notice there's a ring there, I suppose, for picking it up, but you'll hear it clunk. Something's under there. Interesting that this side chapel, the first on the right as you enter, has 6 times the available candles as the others that I'm passing. I think there should be the painting of a man I don't want to go up onto the altar to find out who it is. You know which of these confessionals was available? And how many priests did it take to man this? I should think a religious person could come here, as I have, when there are only two people in the church, myself and an Oriental fellow, and feel quite at one with God at this moment in time. If you were a believer, those balconies be used for. Notice how simple the seating is for those who sat up here with the priest during services, compared to the churches we saw, for example, in Sicily, particularly in Palermo. Notice that our organs are very much forward, not just in the back, although there are pipes in the back too. But there are pipes all about the four corners here at the transept intersection. What that young man thinks about here as he spends time looking closely at this is one moment when the ability to chat with somebody at length about what's going on here would be enlightening. Imagine the joy of the woodcarver firm that got the contract for this. Imagine having been baptized in that dramatic baptismal font, perhaps the most that I have ever seen. Although I've seen some, I believe, by the great masters, Da Vinci or Michelangelo. And then reflecting on that as you grew older and older. Strange copper water holding apparatus for a church. I wonder what it is. A holy water dispenser. I want to focus on the elaborateness of that metal detail behind the hinge. It's an add-on. It's not functional to the hinge.